The Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast is dedicated to all things Horus Heresy. This podcast delves into the grimdark universe where Primarchs clash, legions rise, and loyalties fracture faster than a Land Raider's track. But it's not just about the lore of the Horus Heresy. The Accountabilibuddies also explore the gaming side of things, from painting and modeling tips to product reviews and ideas to help you in your hobby. So, whether you're a seasoned Forge World veteran or a fresh-faced scout, this podcast is your Vox channel to the galaxy. Expect discussions on lore, modeling, gaming, and maybe even the shenanigans that your hosts somehow seem to find their way into. Remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there are only two things you can count on: heresy and your trusty Accountabilibuddies.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 102 of the Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast. I am Duncan, as I am almost always, and tonight I am joined by my friends
Jack,
Jamie,
and John.
And we also have a wonderful special guest with us,
Eric.
And Eric is our main topic tonight because he is coming to us from the taking of Phyrix and the Phyrix crew, and he's here to be talking tonight about AdeptiCon 2025 and all the fun stuff that we have going on there. Not AdeptiCon 2025 because that would be a bit far out, and I don't think any of the current listeners or ourselves will be able to make it to that one. But before we go to that and everything else there, let's go ahead and do a shout out to all of our sponsors and all of our patrons. We appreciate every single one of you and everything you do to support the cast.
Do you love resin bases? Then go to our sponsor, Elric Hobbies, for all of your basing and basing accessory needs. Use code HeresyABB at checkout for a discount. Legendary Monument Hobbies. Monument Hobbies is a one-stop shop for all of your painting needs. Use code HeresyABB at checkout for a 5% discount on your purchase. Pop Goes the Monkey. Find maker of third-party accessory bits of arms, legs, backpacks, and more, where you can get 10% off your first order over $125 with code HeresyABB at checkout.
And now that we're back from that, John, would you like to begin by discussing what you have done this week hobby-wise?
Yeah, so I really haven't got a ton done, I'll admit. I managed to run through all of the Ultramarines blue ink that I use for my sealing, so I tried to use some other stuff that didn't work as well as I'd hoped, but I did manage to get all of the tubs of Marines filtered, and so now I'm going to start sealing them so I can start doing decals on them.
Nice.
Then I started building some of the terrain for Adepticon. So Cromlech has some really nice, worked on some fountains, which are like 70,000 pieces a piece. And then worked on some, it's like a billboard that I'm going to use for like the entrance to the kind of memorial garden area. So I got those built up. And that's really it for me. What about you, Jack?
Well, crap, what have I done? On the Hobby Hangout, I put together the Mastodon. Jesus, I'm drawing blank on everything. Again, for the third or fourth time. This time I epoxied it because no matter what happens with it, I'm moving forward with it. I'm not fighting with it anymore, getting squared. So I put that together. Days since then, I continued to put more bits on it, and somehow it turned all cappywampus again. I don't know at this point what causes that, but I put the 3x1x4 5 blocks that I have as weights with a heat gun and kind of melted it back into position. I don't know what's going on with this cast, but
I was gonna say, like, what's going on with this?
I don't know. It'll be fine. It'll be square and level, and then I'll walk away for a couple days, and then this maybe it's not poured right and it's collapsing underneath its own weight, kind of. Because that's the only thing that I can figure out is maybe some of the walls are a little bit too thin to stay properly erect. I said it out loud.
She said it right.
But
I was laughing at sweet walls.
but at this point, it's getting moved forward on no matter what, because it's been sitting there for a while. So the inside of it has been painted gray, some details plucked out, and now there's a oil wash drying on the inside. Need to go back, do a little bit more weathering on the inside, and then do some OSL, and then that is going to be done on the inside. And I need to figure out how I'm going to paint the outside of it, because I just don't want it as a big blue shoe. I want it to actually have a little bit of character on it, so I've been trying to figure that out. What about you, Duncan? What have you been up to, dog?
Hobby wise,
Sure.
nothing. So pass to Jamie.
Jack and squat. How about that? Yeah, I've got a lot going on outside of in the home side right now. So.
Exactly. That's why I haven't done anything hobby wise this week either.
I have plans, like, not maybe this week, it depends, but definitely starting soccer season ends this coming weekend, so I'll have should have a lot more time on my hand. So
Here we go. All right. I think that about covers every bit of hobby stuff, except for Eric. Eric, have you done any hobby stuff lately? And I don't mean for Phyrix. I mean for your personal hobby stuff.
Actually, I have. It's hard to believe. We just wrapped our last Phyrix event 2 weeks ago, so I've been really busy doing that. But I have 10 camo cloaks left on my Alpha Legion army, and I've been taking forever to paint them. So I did actually get some table time. We're probably like 3 or 4 hours away from being done. So that,
Nice.
a couple of details on the Fire Raptor, and I'll be ready for AdeptiCon. So feels good.
Cool. So I guess that means we're going to kick it over to John for the news. John, what news do we have, sir?
I'm afraid it's going to be really close to your hobby progress.
Oh,
well, there
no.
was some good news this week, but there was also some bad news. But I'll let John have at it.
Yeah, the good news is obviously the close combat weapon sprue came up. And so
Yep.
that would be what we were waiting for. It's going to be officially dropped on the 16th, which is not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday. It seems all pre-orders are now 2 weeks, which is kind of annoying. And that's really been it. There's not even been like Joy Toy or Merchoid or anything like that. No releases from them.
Like, even GW, like this week, I think they released a pre-release book that's on pre-sale for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
And
that
it was-
news book is coming out.
Yeah.
that
The other news was that, from what I saw, this is from people complaining to GW that there was no Heresy Thursday officially, or where it's been, and they say that Heresy Thursday is not going to be an every Thursday type deal anymore. It is possibly only going to be once a month.
I wonder who the people that asked GW who that were, or what that was going to be, who they were. Because I'm pretty sure I saw multiple names from the community on that thread from GW on Facebook that I know,
All
including
Heroes War Capes.
most of us.
Yeah, but I will admit that I'm surprised I have not been blocked at this point, but yes.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured.
Well, no, I've gotten to the point where I really just don't hold anything back. I'm just like, y'all suck, because like that, it's not very hard to do. Even if you're doing like another painting thing for the Solar Auxiliary, I mean, something,
Yep. Yeah. I guess you-
It's not that hard to, and even when the mech book was released, previewed, I joked that the rest of the month was just going to be like ways to use the mech book and stuff that's coming with the mech book.
exactly.
And I was pleasantly surprised for a while, but it seems we've gone back on drought.
Right. No, I mean, and I've looked. I shouldn't be complaining at all, because we have gotten stuff. Okay. we need to be positive about it. But like, they did tell us we were getting Heresy Thursday back. So that's kind of why a lot of the community is, I'm going to say, not like up in arms, but a little perturbed. How about that?
That's a fair statement.
And
I think
they kind of let us on a little bit, and people, that they took it as what we had been getting before, but so I don't know.
No,
I mean,
it's kind of what it is.
I'm ecstatic that we're getting the close combat set. I mean, it looks, from everything that we've seen and all the pictures of all the parts, it looks like it's a really good set. I mean, it's probably going to be $60, but still, it looks very good. So
I think it'll probably be 40 or about, because that's what the other ones.
What are the heavy weapon sets going for? I haven't looked at those in a while.
I have the site open. I'm trying to scroll to it right now. The special weapon is 47.
So they'll probably be in $47 to $50 range. Then is what I look at.
Yeah, I think they came out. They were 30 to 40. Now they're 47 for every.
So it'll probably be in that same range. I mean, we kind of already talked about it, but it is what it is.
Yep.
It'll be good for a lot of people, because I know a lot of people are trying to push the use of destroyers and devastators. So.
Yeah, I'm disheartened by the fact that we didn't get the Heresy Thursday, but I'm happy that kit came out. That is available.
It'll be available. I mean, in theory.
Is there something you guys are specifically hoping for before, like, let's say Adepticon rolls around?
Oh,
Mark 3 armor.
Yeah.
Hold on, what'd you say?
I know. I said Mark 3 armor. Oh, sorry, Mark 2 armor.
I was gonna say we already have Mark 3 armor. It'd be
sorry, that was my bad.
Mark 2, 4, 5.
Mark 2, Mark 4.
Breachers or destroyers?
Breachers would be nice. Yeah.
Mark 4 would be high up on my list for sure.
Yeah, I think breachers destroyers, because you probably could do the same kit.
More Legion Praetors, but I mean,
I mean, there's
we can wish list all day long about everything they want.
I mean, they're not going to release anything in December. We already know that. I mean, if they do, it'll be the very last week of December. Like, I'd have to look at the way the month falls, and like, it's like they may put something out that week after Christmas, because the 30th and 31st are Monday and Tuesday. So, but usually they don't put anything new out December.
Realistically, I expect sometime in this month, for the month of December, I expect they will announce the usual package deals that they do for the Christmas holiday season.
I thought they'd already had
on sale.
I
haven't seen one.
Didn't they had them for 40K? I believe
they did for 40K, and
they kind of did them already.
They just, I don't know if
they said that the night one was probably going to be the only one that you could even try to steal for Heresy.
There's the Night House one is the one everybody's kind of chomping their bits at, because it was a night and like 4 what do you call them? Armigers.
Yeah.
Oh, I was kind of hoping
took out a lot of the weapon sprues.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping we might get one for Heresy, but oh well, never mind.
Nope.
Not a big enough game, apparently.
Oh well, it's okay. We can still carry on as we are. It's not going to hurt my feelings not to have something.
Yeah, it might. I don't know, because they've done the past. They've done like the rolling rollouts or whatever previews in December as like teaser presents to like Christmas week, and I'm gonna say it's not a real big limb to go out on, but I'm gonna say we're gonna probably see super heavy Marine and Solar Ox tanks is what I'm gonna go with, because they can.
I wouldn't really object to either of those,
because the core kit is a Baneblade. I mean, it's not gonna be very hard for them to do both at the same time. So kind of like they did with the Big Knights. So you have the same core kit for all three of at least the current Big Knights, but the Lancer or whatever. So I don't know. Not
I
that
don't really
people,
know either.
not that people are clamoring for it, but that would be nice. I mean, I still think the Breachers and the Destroyers would be awesome, and maybe like a Termite, which kind of seems kind of like out of left field, but like that would be another kind of unit that we're kind of missing too. That's core transport, but
Maybe Jack will get a plastic mastodon so he can sit there and not have to worry about the blue shoe anymore.
well, I mean, they'll end up doing it at some point. But
I mean, well, yeah, everything is going to end up getting done eventually. It just, as we all wonder when the eventually actually hits, what goes on there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Mastodons have been super popular too recently, in my local meta at least. I know there's been 3 or 4 of them rolling around, terrorizing Kansas City. So,
well, that's interesting, I guess.
I think I've only ever seen 2.
I've seen 2. I've seen 2.
Archangel and Emperor's Children, I think, were the only 2 I've ever actually seen.
I've only ever played against one, and that was Lucas's Mastodon. And then I've only ever seen one more, and that's Jack's that hasn't been finished yet. So
my friend Johnny had an Ultramarine one.
there was a guy that played on our side last year at Adepticon that had one. I think it was Iron Warriors. But he had the whole done. He had built it in 1.0, so he had it like convertible for terrain or whatever per the old rules. So
nice.
The top would pop off and everything when it got wrecked. It was pretty amazing.
What, it doesn't do that anymore?
Well, I think a lot of people just glue it shut and don't bother.
Yeah.
Jack's kind of extra. He's gonna do everything he can to it.
I don't blame him. You spend that kind of money on a kid, it better do everything it can do, man.
I hate to tell you, it does not do that anymore.
Oh, sorry, Jack. Womp womp.
I'm still waiting for the White Scars player though to load one full of bikes and roll it across and just dump a bunch of biker dudes in your face.
Can you actually do that with it?
Yeah, with the old school bikes.
Oh, jeez.
Just you could do it with the Thunderhawk too, I think.
Yeah,
I think even more.
I wonder if the Thunderhawk could carry the Mastodon that then carries the bikes.
What about the transport?
The transport, I think you could do that actually. Yeah. Because I think,
Lord.
I don't know, I saw some discussion at one time where somebody was trying to theorycraft using a transport to transport a Thunderhawk that was transporting tanks and infantry, but I don't know if that's actually doable. But pretty interesting little nesting doll situation going on. Maybe?
What you can do is transport a Land Raider with a Mastodon and then disembark from the Mastodon a Leviathan Dreadnought or whatever Dreadnought fit inside of it. That's fun.
That's what you need, man. Yeah. Get to work on it, Jack.
I do have...
I think
Rosa did that with World Leaders.
I think a regular Thunderhawk can take 3 Dreadnoughts, if I remember correctly.
They're both 10. They count as 10, so yes.
So yeah, that would be fun. Well, maybe not the other person, but yeah.
All right then. Well, I guess we're gonna see exactly how much ridiculous nonsense we can throw at people out there these days.
Well, I mean, that'd be like what?
I personally would never.
Points?
Yeah, it probably would be.
That's so many points.
I would personally never believe in throwing ridiculous nonsense at anybody. I think everything should be balanced and fair. Utterly.
Anyway,
what are you building right now, Duncan?
Nothing at all. In fact, my hobby report this week showed that I very clearly built nothing and did nothing all week.
What have you been building?
Debt. I was building debt because my furnace shit itself and cracked the heat exchangers, and I have to have the entire central heating and air, my AC and furnace both replaced in full because the furnace is 31 years old and the AC is a Frankenstein that has parts of it that are 23-year-old, parts that are 21-year-old, and a single part that's 25. So,
I've been there. So I know it. I get it.
Yeah, that's where I am right now. That's why I haven't done anything at all this week.
Yeah.
So I was scrabbling trying to figure all that out. But it's okay. It'll be fixed and replaced tomorrow, which is wonderful because I'm very happy that my AC is currently working fine. And it'll be fixed before the heat is needed because this past week, my furnace itself got condemned by the heating people because of how bad the cracks are. So if we had turned the heater on, it would have been blowing not just warm air, but it would have been blowing straight carbon monoxide into our ventilation system. And and apparently the carbon monoxide alarm on the 31-year-old heater is tied to a 31-year-old box fuse that stopped working sometime in the past 31 years. And so I never knew the fuse didn't work, which is also why I didn't know that the alarm system on it didn't work, which is how I didn't know that when we tested it after the winter that everything seemed fine, which is why I didn't know it was broken at the end of last year when sometimes we smelled funny gas smells in the house. So yeah, anyway, what I'm saying is
Check your
I'm not
furnaces.
dead. And check your furnaces, people. Listeners, if you have a furnace, check your furnace, change your filters, and don't die of carbon monoxide poisoning, as I very possibly could have, without the fact that we had to have it checked because our AC compressor stopped working a week and a half ago. So, yeah. Do adult stuff. It's important. Don't just ignore it for nonsense reasons or being stubborn, because I very nearly did that. And I think that might have been a bad idea. So anyway, let's talk about something that's not my furnace blowing up and killing everybody. Before we say anything else, I'll go ahead and do a shout out. I do know that our friends down in Alabama are doing the next Bama event. That is their Heresy event.
January 11th
Yes.
and 12th, if I remember correctly. Yes, it's a 2-day event. January 11th.
Event.
High Ground Games in Madison, which is suburbs of Huntsville. Close to, it's not far off of 65, but it's like on the highway that goes to Huntsville, which I can't remember what it is. But anyways, it's not far off of 65, I-65. So a lot of people, I know people come down from Nashville for it. If I remember correctly, because I've talked with Blake and Christopher a bit this weekend, the last count I saw for numbers is, I think they have 8 spots left open out of... So the initial allotment was 20 spots. They booked all that up, and then they got an additional 30, or the total would have been like 38 or 40 spots. If I may be off, but it was right around that. And they only have 8 spots left. So
Nice.
It's booking up pretty quickly, and there's a couple people like that want to go that I know from Nashville area that are trying to see how finances work out. You know what? I want to go too, but I can't commit to anything right now with the family situation. So that's where I'm at. I wish the boys all well, and I really want to play, but I just can't commit long term right now. So even though it's not that far away, I know Blake was playing some missions today in town with another player, and I think he was also trying some stuff out for LVO. So yeah, they're super excited. I know Blake and him have been working really hard on some new missions and just the event in general. They're trying to drum. They're really into this event's kind of centered around, as they call it, war crimes. So close combat, tight quarter, like attacks and that kind of stuff, like squads like that. So
sounds like destroyers need to make an appearance.
That's what they're pushing really hard for, destroyers. So
good for them. I also want to go ahead and shout out the Thanksgiving event Saturday, November 9th at the Battle Barn in Indiana.
Yep.
It's I believe 2 rounds, maybe 3. I'm not 100% certain. Starting at 9 a.m. on November the 9th, 3,000 points. It's a charity thing. Admission is $20, and they're accepting canned goods for the food drive to go to other stuff, and you might get bonus this or bonus that for tanks and for any food or canned food that you donate to stuff. Will also get you bonus points as well for other stuff. Anyway, that's that. And someone was trying to speak before I talked. So who was that? Was it Jack?
Oh, I was just in the thought process of game testing. I was watching a battle report from November Echo Wargaming on YouTube, and they had a very interesting house mission where the board started with no objective on it, but you could have your line choice drop objectives, and depending on where they dropped them, depending on how many points they were, but that also, when they dropped them, that took their whole entire shooting phase to drop it.
Oh, now that's interesting.
Yeah, and you can drop it and you can control it, but if the enemy destroys it, then now it becomes the enemy objective. So it's one of those you have to think about where you're dropping it and if you're going to be able to hold on to it, because like No Man's Land was like 2 VP. The enemy deployment zone was like 4 VP per. It was a very, very interesting game mechanic that I thought they came up with.
I'll have to give that a look. But other than that, we're not really here to discuss that part. No. We're here tonight to discuss AdeptiCon 2025 and Phyrix's Heresy events. We actually have Eric here with us, who, as I'm sure everyone's heard before and heard tonight, knows Eric. He is one of the primary event runners for Phyrix, one of the big organizers for it. He and Lucas, unfortunately, Lucas is not here with us, but we do have the big brain behind most stuff. So, well, don't one of the two big brains. I'm not sure if it's the left brain or the right brain, but we got the brain. So before we go too deep into this, let's go ahead and I'm going to ask you to set up the story for where we are as of 2024's Adepticon, the one that is already in the past. Yeah. What's our current situation for Saratan? I think it was the system.
Yeah, Saratan. Saratan 4, actually. Okay. So at Adepticon, we started essentially the arrival and the first exploration / first engagements on the newest planet in the Phyrix cluster that we're sort of investigating, called Saratan 4. In the previous setting, the traders had run the loyalists off, had forced them off almost completely in a sweep. So the loyalists fled to the only system, or one of the only systems they knew, or one of the only planets that they knew about further into the system. Saratan 4, they had recovered some data slates that included some information regarding some automated deliveries for some process resources from the previous planet. Saratan 4 was supposed to be like this ocean world. Upon arrival, it was no longer an ocean world, more of the husk of an ocean world. Think like coral reef plains with a giant hive cluster in the middle, where all these manufactorums and stuff were set up. They sort of barricaded themselves up, started preparing for what the eventual trader arrival would be. And so at Adepticon, we actually did the initial engagements on Saratan 4. So leaving Adepticon, there was pretty even split on the sectors that had been claimed by each side. And we moved on. So for those that don't know, Phyrix runs year-round. So we actually travel around and do other shows and continue the story of the planets that we're on at the time through our other events. So throughout the rest of the 2024, we've actually resolved the story of Saratan 4. There are some lore reveals and stuff coming in the final narrative that'll be out before the end of the year. Not going to spoil those here, but essentially the sort of secret to everything going on with Saratan, why it was like that, why there was a giant, huge techno worm that showed up at the last event, and laid waste to a lot of the war engines that had gathered for a mega battle that we were doing. All of the final answers for Seratan 4 will be out before the end of the year. So, and that will actually tee us up for 2025.
Okay. So, 2025, are we going back to Seratan 4? Or are we going somewhere else? Are we staying in the Seratan system?
Actually, no. So we're going to do something pretty cool. Not going to spoil it too much.
Broad strokes only then, please.
Yeah, broad strokes only. So we're going to do something that we've actually never done in the Phyrix story. So we're going to actually shift from Seratan and shift to a different front in the Phyrix fight. So from that trader route that happened at the Amber Strand, there were 3 locations that they had found information on. So Seratan, we followed Seratan and the loyalist forces as they moved that direction. So for 2025, we're actually going to be shifting over to a planet called Dolos, and we're going to be looking at the engagements that happen there. So we're kind of doing a pan out and a repan onto a different front in the Phyrix cluster. So we're really excited about that. I think it's going to be awesome. Narratively, it's going to give people a reason to maybe sit down and revisit their characters. And, here's a perfect excuse for you to write, to come up with a new Praetor for this year or what. If you wanted to carry over the same Praetor, honestly, we're not checking anybody's models at the door or anything. Just play with the guy you want to play with. But I think we're gonna give you a good enough reason before AdeptiCon to make you want to sit down and sort of pound out a little narrative for yourself, to explain, what's going on this other side.
Okay. And that actually is a good way to kind of segue to a bit of something that's special about the Phyrix narrative stuff. You all have a special way of doing both NPCs, characters, your missions, your tables, points of interest. But the big one that a lot of people seem to focus on is character building. You all have a bespoke system that you all have come up with that lets you create off of a baseline Praetor, a Praetor with different abilities based on what you pay for and how you want to play them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a genuine small nutshell. How does that work? And have you made any changes from the previous year system that some people out there may already know?
Yeah. So I guess if you've never heard of Phyrix before, we actually have an entire, what we call a supplement now. It's not an actual supplement. It sounds a lot fancier than it actually is, but it's a combination of all of the rules for all of the systems that we use. So in Phyrix, like you mentioned, we have POI systems, which are situation or additional markers on a table that identify something as maybe a tertiary level objective. And interacting with that could be, oh man, it's a piece of, it's a relic from Phyrix that might have, abilities. Or it might be just worth points for your side to recover. It could also be like an NPC character, which those are like actually rooted in the narrative now. So maybe you run into, someone out there who's trying to harvest, drone parts or something like that. There will be a little narrative reason why that character was in that space. And you, again, earn points for your side by gathering these people or completing their little side quests if they have them. It's a really cool layered system. And then beside that, like you said, we get to the Character Forge. Like the Character Forge is essentially Phyrix, it's the system we're most proud of. If it all falls apart tomorrow, that's the one thing that we hope goes forward. It's also like all of our systems are completely open to everybody. So if you come to a Phyrix event and you run games in your local scene, these are all open source. You guys can take them, use them, and whatnot. But the Character Forge essentially started out as the idea of taking a Praetor, and narratively in Phyrix, there was an event that happened in the narrative 2 years ago at AdeptiCon that isolated all of the legions from the ability to go back to normal space. So Phyrix exists in this like quiet little twisted corner of the Imperium. And this narratively gave us a reason to write off special characters and named characters. Mostly because narratively we try to tell a really provocative story, and everybody knows where these characters are, right? They're all in books everywhere. Their timelines are laid out. So by removing them from the equation altogether, now we're looking at, okay, imagine a situation where one of your named characters is leading your legion, and now he has to flee, or now he can't exist there anymore. Who would step up? Would that be, a guy that's just like a tactical sergeant or something? Who knows? Maybe it's a destroyer company guy, right? Or somebody in that leadership.
I mean, obviously, the Primarchs can't be everywhere in the galaxy. It is a galaxy-spanning event. Abaddon can't be everywhere for everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to sit there and assume that they are, and it gives you a more narrative reason to actually have a personalized character, a personalized army, and build and forge the narrative that you yourself want in the actual game, which is something that I know has been a big hit amongst everybody who's played your events.
Yeah, it's really popular. And we try to, and honestly, I can tell you now, we're now into our third revision of it. And every time we add more options, it started out as like, well, let's cover the most popular consoles like Chaplains, Moratots, all the things that everybody sits around and wishes they could play with as a Praetor. So we did those all first. And now it's kind of moved into, we have Legion-specific ones now that maybe unlock, for some of the characters that unlock Rite of Wars, all of that is covered by our system. So if you have a character that lets you do XYZ in the game, there's a Phyrix Character Forge option that lets you do XYZ in the game. The best part of it, though, is that it gives you, along with that data slate, a narrative excerpt to explain sort of how I might approach putting that character, like how I might tell his origin story, to sort of give you a jump start on like, hey, I'm new to Phyrix. I don't know what's going on. I've tried to listen to the story. I'm trying to catch up, but how do I put a character in right now? There's a, one paragraph blurb of like, here's how he would have probably ascended through your army. And that hopefully gets your juices flowing. So you can sit down and name the guy, tell us where he came from, tell us where he's been, what he's done. A lot of people buy in, especially at Adepticon. A lot of people buy in. There's actually a separate award system where we judge, people's kit bashed Praetors or their backstories or any number of things regarding that system. But the idea stems from, hey, we're isolated. Maybe our first option, maybe he got killed in the last engagement and somebody else has to step up. Like I know personally, my Blood Angels army has exclusively played in Phyrix from back when I was attending Phyrix events in 2016. And I've traded Praetors 3 times. I've intentionally killed them off to move on to a better idea or a different idea, based on the army I wanted to build. So it's really just a system.
Have any of your dead Praetors showed up as dreadnoughts?
As not yet, but my one of the benefits of being an EO is I can pretty much make whatever I want. So I can tell you that my current Praetor is probably slated to enter a dreadnought after his tour ends, which will probably be the next time they hit the table, honestly.
There you go.
Yeah, but that's the kind of stuff that we really sort of try to, with the Character Forge, set the table for players to buy into the narrative system. Because I know, like, there are a lot of us that lean heavily on their own army narratives, and
this is Heresy. If we aren't focused on the narrative, then we're not playing Heresy the way it's intended to be done, right?
Yeah, I feel like that. And I feel like for the people, though, that might find it a little awkward or don't know where to start, this whole system is designed for you to read through it. And hopefully, even if you're brand new, there's something to get the ball rolling for you. Because in an ideal world, we want everybody's Praetor to be some named guy with a backstory, and the players to exchange those stories and talk about how their next chapters for each of their guys is going to change based on the fight they just had. We have some very famous grudges that have gone on the last couple of years in the Phyrix system where, Praetors have intentionally re-engaged each other over and over and over, trying to settle scores back and forth on each other. It just makes it so much more fun than just sitting down and playing Heresy, right?
I mean, sitting there and hearing that people have continued the same fight between their Praetors because he bested me last time. Now I'm going to go over there and donkey punch him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And that just sounds like fun. I mean, it just sounds more engaging, which, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, we even had a guy last year at AdeptiCon who brought his Praetor narratively had died in the last event, and he was trialing Praetors. So every game, he was going to play a new character that he had made, and they kept dying. You know, he was intentionally throwing them into combat to see if they could live to survive to actually be legendary. Like, his idea was like, one of these guys has to be legendary enough for me to write his actual story. And he finally ended up finding one. I think on the last day of Adepticon, one finally made it through the gauntlet. And
oh Lord!
So it's but that's what we want the system there to be for, right? All of the stuff. Yeah, all of the stuff is there for it to be a sandbox for you to play in. And I'll be honest with you, man, we're always adding revisions and stuff. So if there's stuff that you come across that you're like, man, this would be a really cool idea for a Praetor, come over and talk to us and let us know. You know, there's always, every time we do a major event, we sit down and see if there's any revisions that need to be done. And so it'll get brought up in the discussion, I promise.
So last year's Praetors who are attending this year, are they going to get anything narratively from the events itself for the guys who are now returning veterans? Or are they just going to be the same way they were before? Or are they getting a little bit of a bonus bump for sticking it out year after year?
I think there's been some talk of some veteran systems. I think we're kind of still in the development phase for something like that. It's definitely something we've been talking about, though, because I mean, we have one of the guys that we have a guy that basically has traveled to all of our events this year. So he's been to Dallas, he's been to Kansas City, he's been everywhere. And his character consequently was in every fight on Seratan 4. So I'd like to find a way to acknowledge the fact that this guy, you know, is put it in the work, you know. So there, like I said, we're kind of tossing around the idea of a narrative or a veteran system. But if we definitely settle on one, it'll be live before the events announced, which I think is in January. So we'll go into a hard rule lock in January. So if there's anything like that, we'll make an announcement for sure.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking about the events lock, what are the current event plans for Adepticon 25?
Yeah. So, obviously, Phyrix is the narrative event of Adepticon 2024 for Horus Heresy. Like, Phyrix itself has been in production for forever. We've been at Adepticon for the last 3 years running, or this will be our third year going in. So a lot of this is going to be the same format of events that we had last year. So we'll start with our narrative frontline missions, which frontline for us is 3,000 points. Outside, generally outside tables with mission objectives, points of interest. All of the systems are fully engaged on the frontline stuff. To me, it is the de facto way that we want you to experience Phyrix, right?
Okay.
That event, obviously, that is our backbone. That's going to be returning. We have narrative ZM during the daytime. We had that last year. It was a huge hit. So we've brought that back. And then one of the other things that Phyrix does that's really, really cool. And even if you don't get to make it to one of our events, I highly swing by our section of the Horus Heresy area and look. But we do mega ZM battles, and we do them on a level that I don't think anybody else does. Last year we had 2 full 20-foot ships pulled up side by side, and there were boarding actions going across from each ship to, with defenders and attackers. And it just turns into this absolute madhouse and race to disable the other, the opponent's ship. It's really, really cool. And even just looking at the tables and seeing the tables and the effort that goes there. So Mega ZM, what we call Broadside, that'll be back as well. And the biggest announcement for this year is that obviously with the new venue, we've been able to expand. So we've expanded to at the absolute maximum of tables that we have, or tables that we will have available by Adepticon. So I'm not sure if I can give exact ticket numbers yet, because we might not have gotten that sign off yet. But essentially, I can tell you that we're hosting a large percentage more this year than we did in the previous years. So there will be plenty of games. And the Narrative ZM, for example, will run morning and afternoon. So there's even double sessions there. And then the Mega ZM runs every night that we're at the event. So I think it's going to be really awesome. I think obviously we've got a really cool story cooked up, and you guys know that like one of the things that we do, I think that also sort of levels up these different events, is that all of these affect the fighting on the planet. So in our frontline systems, for example, we have all of our big tables, and you guys know I've basically stopped playing Horus Heresy, and I'm now like a full-time terrain painter these days. So we're always building new tables and that kind of stuff. But each of those tables are going to be set up in war zones, and those war zones reflect like sections of the planet that you're fighting over. The Narrative ZM section, that actually reflects part of the planet that you are fighting for. So the guys playing Narrative ZM are going to be affecting the frontline tables, and the frontline tables are going to be affecting the Narrative ZM tables. And even when you go into the mega battle at night, which our nighttime stuff tends to be a little bit more relaxed, we want you to sort of chill out and have a good time. It's a little bit more of a curated kind of game. Like obviously we're still playing Horus Heresy, but there are events occurring on the table that are outside of the player's control. They're sort of, story beats that need to happen in order for us to tell you the story that we want to tell in that setting. But even the mega battle reflects a narrative beat that's going to affect the other sections. So anything that you ever do in Phyrix is affecting the story of the current campaign. So I think it's pretty awesome.
I'm certain that most people will be able to figure out, just about every single one of the hosts here has played in multiple Phyrix events at AdeptiCon through the years. I've played primarily in the front line, and that's typically because I prefer the frontline style games. I've never gotten into the Mega ZM, honestly, most of the time, because by that time of the evening, I'm already plastered, and I forget how to roll dice.
I was going to say, you're
do much
plastered and
beyond.
you're pretty shot from playing all day long, too. But
Yeah. So I'm too drunk to understand what the hell I'm doing, and I'm pretty much just drunk enough to stand there and hang out and watch cool stuff and see cool things and hang out and talk to people. So I know Jax played in the Mega ZM last year while he was just almost as drunk as I was. But dude, we all love the events. They're great. They're fun. They're definitely something that we recommend people take a look and check out.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked on how the different tables all reflect different aspects of planets or aspect of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us some ideas or hints there as to what we're looking at? Anything to kind of tell us what's coming up, what we're getting ourselves into, or what people are getting into for the actual narrative? Where we're going to be, anything like that?
Like I said, we'll be on a planet named Dolos. I am not going to spoil any of that. Sadly, you got the story guide tonight. Had you gotten Lucas, maybe he would have let something slip. But as the narrative guy, I'm gonna hold it down tight. But I really also want to stress, like I said, for the people that haven't been out to one of our events before, and I'm sure you guys can attest, I really do think that we have one of the premier table sets available to any kind of games. Yeah, I would say wargaming, period, but definitely Horus Heresy. I feel like we were blessed by our previous owner, David Coleman. He was a terrain commission painter.
Mastermind.
Yeah, and a commission painter. So we inherited a large majority of our table set is from him. But he's kind of set the bar very high on not just the painting, but also the composition and how tables should look and whatnot. And we've kind of carried on that tradition, and I think we've done it a lot of justice. There's a lot of cool tables out there. It's not going to be the same GW Ruin set that every FLGS has, right? You're going to see custom, bespoke stuff. And that even goes into the missions. Like all of our missions are completely designed for each table that they're on. So if you're on a table with a broken pipeline, there will be a mission that has you interact with that broken pipeline in some way, right? And
Yeah.
that allows us to do really cool stuff with the table designs too, like asymmetrical stuff, or like last year we had that kind of bastion on the Realm of Battle tiles with the Crash Sokar.
Yeah, I remember that one.
There's a way to make it balanced, through mission design to say, hey, you know what? Yes, you can deploy into an area that has very little cover, but there are ways for you to win this game. And so we're able to kind of push the table design even further, which is, I think, really, really cool. So I'm excited.
I'm personally all about wanting my battlefield to look beautiful. And I've got to admit and fully endorse that statement that I've never seen a Phyrix table that did not look unique to any other table, both in the room and anywhere else at the convention I've attended. And that stuff's just beautiful, brother. It really is.
Yeah, and I tell you, the pile's getting big, man. The stack of available tables is getting large. So
how many tables are you actually up to be able to do? Just not like for this event or that event, but how many individual tables do you actually have now?
I think the stack is somewhere around 50 with a lot, or with several in design, build, and paint. So 50 that I could grab today and go with.
Wow.
But that covers like frontline ZM. If we include Mega ZM, that's another, 8 tables? 8 tables.
Jesus.
And when I say tables for ZM, I'm talking 4x6s, right? Like full size tables. So yeah, there's a lot of it. Like I said, we are essentially a table production company at this point to keep track of how big we want to grow, and that's why we're so excited about the new venue, man. The early indications, early discussions with them is that, there's going to be possibilities for expansion in the future. And, I'll run an AdeptiCon event for 700 people if I can, right? But
if that happens, I will take my head off and I will attend as at least one of them.
We might have to grow. I mean, it's going to take several years of growth to get there, but I think we could, I think once you see the increase in ticket number for this year, I think you guys will see that there's a huge effort being done in the background by us to get all of these custom tables done. And yeah, I think if we can continue that growth pace for the next couple of years, I think it's not far off from just having just absolutely absurdly large narrative events where all of it's intertwined and intermingled and, layered up. So
look forward to all of that, brother. I truly, truly do. I'm sorry to have hogged all the questions. Anybody else have stuff they want to ask Eric about? Again, sorry.
You've hit most of the ones that I was going to ask, but I just know from attending AdeptiCon for several years and the tables that Eric and Lucas have are mightily impressive if people haven't seen them. And I know people are will be walking the halls and yes, that they'd be like, is that a Stormbird? We're like, yes, it is.
And people are playing on that table too. That's exactly it.
It's not just for display.
Yeah.
And so and the tables, there are themes, but almost every table is unique and loaded with terrain for the most part. Depending on what the gameplay situation is or the battle mission is, but that's one of the things that people love about the Phyrix events is that the terrain is top notch. It's gorgeous, and it's one of the draws, if not the mission set. Is people love playing on those tables. Whereas then, if you go down to the 40K tables, and you're just like, this is what we're playing on. Especially now that they've gone to a set terrain set. So
that is one thing that I will actually sit there and say that I'm personally a huge fan of. Is while 40K, every single table is done to look uniform and cookie cutter, the Heresy group, Phyrix, and the others all sit there and go out of their way on custom tables when they do them, just like you all do, to make them look different. There's no two tables that are identical. There may be similar types of terrain, but they're never the exact same.
But they're unique. So yeah,
And that
you may have like a
that's
sewer
one thing I love.
system, and then like on one of the sewer systems, you'll have a termite that's busted out of the big pipe in the middle of the board, whereas the other one didn't have that, or something like along that line. Or it'll be a city, and you'll have different style buildings in the city terrain that are literally tall buildings, or they'll have a, like, as you know, people have seen, there is a 3 foot tall plus crane on one of the boards.
Yeah, I know. I fought on that one last year. I had to have jump pack Marines trying to get up. It took me 3 turns to climb that.
That crane is my favorite thing. Honestly, that was just an excuse for me to buy a childhood toy that I never could have had when I was a kid. You know, so it's because it's like RC, so you can actually control it and lift things if you wanted to.
Oh Lord,
it's a ton of fun. But yeah, no, and I think, you know, I think. Just as a way to convey that, you know, even with the missions, you know, we talked about them being special to each table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even the objective markers, you guys, are actually objectives. Like, if you're trying to capture generators, there are painted generators on the table. Yep. If you got to capture drop pods, there's drop pods.
If you get to them early enough, some of those generators may actually still be lit up.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that you know, that's just trying to show you the level of detail that we try to follow through with as an organizer. And it just pays off to what I think is just about the premier Heresy experience that you can find, you know, which is no less than what we expect from, you know, such a awesome convention.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the ZM boards, like, I can't describe how the first time I saw one of them, it literally was like almost an entire row at Adepticon, and I'm talking a row is like what, 8 to 10 tables.
Mm-hmm. It was in the previous layout, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so last year kind of, I'm not going to say split it, but you had them side to side with the 2 ships, like basically going dreadnought style at each other, like firing at each other. So I mean, and that, like, last year you all had ZM stuff going pretty much all day long, if I remember correctly. It wasn't just at night, right?
Yeah. So during the day last year, we leveraged the Mega ZM to run the first. That was the first time I think daytime ZM's been provided ever, or at least that I know of. But we were running them on the ship tables, but we were doing actually a complete mission swap. So we were leveraging the base layout, but we were reorganizing things to make 2x2s or 4x4s for players to play smaller. You know, I think last year was 1,000 points during the daytime. This year we'll be at 1,500 for all of our ZM events. So you can bring one ZM list and play in the Mega ZM, the daytime ZM,
right?
And you don't have to pack anything extra.
But yeah,
do you have any plans to do a 4x6 3K ZMs?
I would say that with us, anything's possible. I think you expressed if we get enough interest in anything, we have tables that we can put out in any way.
Yeah.
You know, that's something else that's really cool about our table set is a lot of them have, some of them in the set are actually designed as a pair. So you could they're very easy to swap into 2v2s. You know, if you wanted to play 2v2, 6K versus 6K, you know, you can do that. At Adepticon, we try to limit it a little, or try to limit that just because it kind of just muddies the water a little bit. Trying to keep people on schedule, but especially after hours, those mission packs are still out. You guys are more than welcome. You know, if you want something like that, we can coordinate pretty much anything you need.
Sounds glorious, brother. Truly does.
And that's the other thing too that is sort of awesome. So even if you're not in our events, you know, all of our tables are available for open play after the daytime events are over. So we'll be in the hall running Mega ZM. So most of our EOs will be over there handling that because it's a very large production. Yes. But the tables are available for open play, and just reach it, you know, grab one of us by the elbow, ask if we, you know, have any conflicts or whatever. And 99% of the time, we're not going to have an issue with it. Just grab the table and go to town.
Nice. Do you have anything else special planned for Adepticon this year?
I can tell you that.
Do you want to give anybody information regarding what is going to go on event-wise from you after AdeptiCon.
Yeah, so I can tell you that narratively we have some really cool things in the works. I think if everything goes to plan, I think this will be one of the cooler evolutions of the Phyrix narrative. You know, it's always been written since 2016. It's one continuous story telling the entire story of the Phyrix cluster. We've gotten into it and gotten it voice acted, so the entire thing is fully voice acted now.
Is it still Baltimore?
It is not Baltimore anymore. We're actually working with JP from the Age of Darkness podcast. He did last year's audio. Did an amazing job with last year's audio. If you want to hear at least my best attempt at descriptive ZM carnage, please go listen to last year's audio. All of this is available through our website, our link tree, which is linktr.ee/Phyrix, Phyrix. That'll link you to all of the audio narratives are there, the written narratives there, all of our campaign systems. If you want to read about the points of interest system or the character forge, that's all of there. But like I said, I got a couple of secret squirrel projects that are in the works, and if those end up going off, I think everybody that'll be in the hall will be aware of narratively what's happening in Phyrix. So I'm excited.
We've seen some of the let's call it the surprises that have happened. Was it this year with the giant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is the sandworm going to make a return?
Well, I think if we can swing it, I want to get it over into the big blam or the big game. You know,
okay.
It's technically a warlord, so I'd love to push it over there and show it off. The worm narratively, I mean, I'll say this: it exists in the universe. You know, so any planet, anytime could also be a flashback, and we could just replay the whole thing. I can say that at our non-AdeptiCon events, it will probably still be making regular appearances. You know, it's no small endeavor to build a model that large. So,
it's large. It's large as that crane, right?
It's about 28 inches tall, I think. It's big enough. I've got a picture from our most recent event. If you go look on our website, you can see our event photos from the last event. Of it staring down a warlord, and like an actual warlord from Forge World, and it looks down at it.
Nice.
So it's well taller than the highest of the back guns on that thing. So it's huge, and it's also like almost 50 pounds. So it's cumbersome. But I love it. And it was such a cool narrative moment when it showed up in the story. And for the guys that were playing the battle that night, you know, it was a complete curveball. Nobody knew about it. It took me almost 2 months to build. So it was so hard to not share progress photos of that thing. But man, it was definitely worth it. The payoff, you know, when bringing it out for the first time and just basically obliterating everything around it. Because the greatest thing about my warlord, you know, given the current state of rules for the shooting of or how durable warlords are right now, or lack thereof, with their shooting especially. Mine has plot armor, so it can't die. So
that's important.
Yeah, so it just stands there terrorizing everybody. And we actually use a system where you score points for hull points and everything. So each team gets turns trying to rack up points, but also kill the opponent. So it was a pretty fun time. But beyond AdeptiCon 2025, we are already scheduled to essentially repeat the calendar that we had this year. So we'll have 2 events in Kansas City, one in the spring, or I should say summer, one in the fall, and then we'll be at the Texas Open in Dallas, which is normally in September, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Normally in September. So we'll be going back there, and the Dallas event is sort of kind of shaping up as kind of the end the story arc for the stories that we're telling. So the idea is we'll start them at Adepticon, continue them at Kansas City, resolve them at Dallas, and then the fall event is more of a dealing with the aftermath, the immediate aftermath of it, and sort of teeing up the story for Adepticon. So we'll be repeating that. And also the Dallas event is one of those situations where we've been given the opportunity to continue to grow that every year. So if you're planning your schedules for Heresy, keep an eye for the September window. As soon as we get the dates, we'll have them on our calendar and announce them publicly. But
Cool.
if you can make it down there, it's definitely, I can tell you, it's worth the trip. I have to drive 8 hours to be there, and I make it worth my time. So, but the venue's the venue's been really cool. The owner of that event is really cool. And like I said, there's an opportunity. Yeah, and the food's good. John brings really good food, so it's a good time.
Okay. Well, anybody got anything else they want to discuss at this point? Do you feel we have any questions that we should ask you that we haven't mentioned yet?
No, I think we're good. Like I said, all of our information is available on our website. Again, it's Linktree, so linktr.ee/Phyrix, Phyrix. We have our Discord link there. We have a pretty poppin' Discord if you want to jump in and sort of see. We have people talking about their characters, discussing, potential builds and army changes, and especially with the road to Adepticon, there's going to be a lot of army progress picks for people that are, familiar with the Phyrix system. So it's a fun community to have, on the side. As soon as I can announce the official events, I'm going to announce the official events, probably everywhere you could expect to see it. So hopefully you do. But yeah, I don't think there's anything that was on the list that we didn't touch.
You know where else links to the Phyrix link tree?
You guys, your
yes,
link tree.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, ours links to yours.
I know, it's kind of circular, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Yeah, I'm happy we have an open channels like this, and our friends for doing all this stuff. So at this point, I don't think I've got anything else that I feel we should mention or that has gone unmentioned. So anybody got any other questions, or are we good tonight, gentlemen?
I'm good.
I think we're good.
Was I supposed to be recording this?
Maybe.
I hope so.
Maybe, but knowing you probably didn't, and you just are going to put out like a 5-minute burst of Baby Shark. Anyway, well, gentlemen, seeing as there's no objections tonight, I think we'll go ahead and call it here. On behalf of the Heresy Accountabilibuddies, I have been Duncan, and tonight I've been joined by my friends, who are
Jack,
Jamie,
and John,
and our special guest over from Phyrix,
Eric.
And remember, everybody, stay accountable to yourself, stay accountable to your hobby, and stay accountable to your friends and buddies in the game and everything else. We will catch you on the next time. Have a good night.
there you go.
Like and subscribe, and see ya.